Hi guys, welcome to the podcast. Before we start, we just want to introduce you to our sponsor. Our sponsor is the Twitter handle @MugsNFL. They're a company that offer a range of custom items such as mugs, t-shirts, crewneck jumpers, and hoodies, all customized with your favorite sports player or your sports team. That can be any sport ranging from the NFL through to the NBA to UK sports. All you have to do for an extra 10% off your order is drop them a message on Twitter quoting our podcast, that is the Hardwood Hoops podcast, and they'll get 10% off your next order. Cheers and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hardwood Hoops podcast. This is episode 8, and I'm joined as always by Ben. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. It's nice to have you back.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sorry about that. A bit of a family pet emergency, so I couldn't be on the last pod, but you did a great job without me. It was a good listen.
Yeah, held the fort, and it was nice to have Joel on, have a little catch up, and talk about shoes. Very nice.
Yeah, I think we're going to do like not regular as such, but like kind of regular pod with Joel when new shoes come out and stuff. So we're going to do an episode 2, I think, aren't we, of all three of us? But maybe you both ask me some questions, and then we review some different shoes that you guys didn't chat about in that pod. So that should be quite cool to get it as a regular segment.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something that everybody can like talk about and fall in love with and have their own opinions on, and I think it's a really good talking point.
Yeah, it's something a bit different as well, and we all know everybody loves a pair of shoes, especially if you play as well. And we've got a few people that do play. A lot of people that probably collect sneakers as well, which is something you don't even consider, really. Some people don't ever play in them; they just only collect. So it's quite cool to go into, I think.
Just on a shelf somewhere.
Definitely. But yeah, just a reminder, everyone, to go listen to that on all the podcast apps. It was really, really good. Certainly a bit different and a bit shorter as well, which is good for some people. And alongside that episode as well, obviously we've got a competition that we mentioned. And this is to win a free customized mug from our sponsor @MugsNFL. That competition's still going. We decided to extend it to the end of the week just to get more people to enter. We're going to announce the winners on Twitter and on our podcast on Thursday night. So go over to our Twitter page at @_HardwoodHoops. All the details on how to enter are on there. And it's honestly a really good prize. Their mugs are amazing. I've got one. I've got a few t-shirts and stuff from them as well, and it's really good. So I urge everyone to enter for a free comp. Why not? You need to enter, Ben.
It's free stuff. Yeah, I know, exactly. Who can turn down free stuff? And, you know.
I won't pick Ben to win if he does enter, don't worry, everyone.
I'll do it under a fake name. Jen Bones.
I'm going to watch out for that. Yeah, and moving on from last week's episode, this week's ep is going to be a little bit of news, but mainly it's going to be an Eastern Conference regular season preview. We're going to do it next week. We've got quite a busy week next week, so we're going to hit it this week. But yeah, before we move on to Ben doing a bit of news, just saying how exciting it is, Ben, that all the teams and players are arriving, all the training starting. People have done the 2 or 3 day quarantine now, and we're moving forward a bit.
It's so good. What's funny to see is the social media is blowing up at the moment. Everybody doing room reveals. I know Evan Fournier's done a really good one. It's like 10 minutes long, but it's like his first day and his arrival, and they've all got like a free, talking of free swag, they got a free swag bag full of all sorts of random stuff, and he goes through it and he gets very excited about a colouring book.
I haven't seen that. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's very good. But yeah, that's good to see.
There's been a lot of food stuff as well, which I find hilarious. With the set menus, because obviously the first 2 days you don't get a chef, you just get the packed lunches, because obviously they want to limit the exposure. So people getting all upset about food for 2 days when they're going to have, I think it's like 40 different restaurants and chef options for the rest of the time. I find that hilarious.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? The things that they have to sort of moan about sort of pale in comparison to the fact that they're being given still fairly good lunches for 2 days.
Yeah, I know. I think it's 2 or 3 days, and after that, the restaurants pretty much open up. I think they're just waiting to announce some of the partnerships because they're doing. They've done a big deal with a lot of black-owned restaurants to try
Very
and fit in
nice.
with the Black Lives Matter. There's like a group, I think, they're called Black Owned Restaurants. So they've done like a partnership with. They haven't announced it yet, but they're basically just finalising the details. But their chefs are heading over now, and obviously they've just done 3 days of packed lunches, and they're all moaning. So it's quite funny when all their like Morton steaks and stuff are going to start arriving next week. That's going to be interesting. J.R. Smith will do another live, I'm sure.
Oh, I bet that video is very nice of him reading through the menu.
Yeah, he did a funny video, and then he said at the end, he did a live, sorry, instead of the end. He said, I've just got a text saying I need to get offline. So either the NBA or the Lakers PR team told him to get offline because he's revealing too much. Yeah, that's quite
It's
funny.
just LeBron next door, probably.
Yeah, probably. LeBron and Dwight in the group chat.
But that feeds quite nicely into the first bit of news I've got here, which is LeBron and AD. They've come out and said that they are just going to have their names on the back of their jerseys instead of having any of the sort of slogans that are available. How do you think? Why do you think they've done this? How do you feel about
that? This is my issue, really. I don't know why they've done it. I did look into. I read something about AD's choice of doing it, but there wasn't really an actual explanation. Because obviously they're supporting the movement in so many other ways.
Yeah.
But no, I don't understand it, to be honest. I believe most of the idea is it's only going to be for either the regular season or for the actual first games. They're not going to do it the whole way through. They're going to have their names on for like sponsorship reasons later on. So I don't see why you wouldn't take the opportunity to at least support one. I know they're supporting them in other ways, but I don't see why you wouldn't do it for one game, for the first game, or because their first game is obviously going to be the most televised probably because it's the first night. I can't see why you'd miss the opportunity personally. What about you?
I think you might have like nailed it in your first sentence there. They're doing so much off the court. I feel like they want their on the court stuff to be their 100% focus when they're on the court, and not have that kind of, the things they're doing off the court sort of interrupt their thought processes when they're on the court. They want to keep the highest amount of familiarity possible because they've got a couple of roster changes, and it may sound stupid, but just having that change in name or having something different on the back of a jersey could take your mind off the game for a brief second and cause a turnover or cause a mispass or something. So the only explanation I have for it is that reason, that on the court is on the court and off the court is off the court. They're trying to keep it as separate as possible. But like you said, if you're choosing a slogan, it's just the slogan for the first couple of games, and then after that you have the choice to go back to just your name, or it's your name under the number with your slogan on top. And I think if you go for that option, you have to stick with it for the rest of the like this end of season, basically. So that's my take on it.
I did read that one of the issues is that LeBron himself, like I said, I don't really know AD's reasoning. I couldn't find his exact reasoning, but LeBron obviously mentioned that he didn't necessarily not agree with. He supports all the ideas, but he didn't find one of the pre-agreed slogans from the NBA to really fit. His words were, "It doesn't really fit what I'm about or my goal as serious as what I would want to put on my jersey." And because they can't choose what they want to put on, as in they can't literally pick anything, they have to go with one of the agreed things that are on this list. He just said, "I'm just gonna not have it and hope that people realize that what I'm about as a person and my overall mission is a lot bigger than just one name for a few games." So I understand that completely. It would have been nice if they could have picked anything without certain, obviously, racial slurs or anything that would offend more people, or maybe have swear words, and they wouldn't obviously agree with the younger generation. I would have liked to see the NBA let them put almost anything they want on, any charity, any company that they support. But this is obviously better than nothing, and I kind of see why LeBron said that, to be honest, because he's doing a lot off the court. So why put extra pressure on the court?
Yeah, definitely. And keeping with the Lakers theme at the moment, Rondo, was it one training session in and sprained thumb, or broken thumb, in fact, and he's out 6 to 8 weeks before playing again. I've got a conspiracy
surgery as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I've got a conspiracy theory about this. So he was he posted on social media that his room looked like a Motel 6. So I think he's gone into first training session and injured, air quotes, himself just to get out of the room. He sacked it off. Thought, nah, it's not for me.
I think they've sent Javel in to deliberately injure him to try and improve their chances of winning a title because he's been horrible this season.
Yeah, he's not been the Rondo of old, but it's a difficult one with Rondo. I just don't think he quite fits that team. Like, yeah, although he's a great playmaker, there's just, I don't know, he's a weird fit, I feel, for that team. So, I mean, that does mean the Lakers are going to have to call up somebody else to fill a gap. Maybe a Swaggy P appearance.
Depends if they want to affect the culture, I guess, though, for 6 weeks, because he would be back in time for part of the playoffs. They might just give it like Quinn Cook or someone more minutes and just call up someone from their G League that they've taken with them. You never know, but depends if they think it's going to be more serious. If they think towards the 8 to 10 week, they might take a risk and bring an extra body in, might they?
I think they should stick with Rondo, and then just like you said, up Quinn Cook's minutes. Maybe slide Caruso to point guard for a bit more rather than two guard, and then obviously LeBron is a point forward. He can run the point, as much as needed. I think they've got enough intelligent heads out there to move the ball where it's needed. They've all, that's the saving grace of this Lakers team at the moment, isn't it? Is the way they've gelled together and their chemistry on the court. So I think they should get through it okay.
Yeah, I think it won't make a huge impact. Just slightly shocking, really, isn't it, to see someone get injured so soon? And for that I know it's not a long-term injury, isn't it? But it's not like a sore calf. It's 8 weeks in surgery.
Yeah,
quite intense, really.
Yeah, it's very impactful, especially on the hand as well. You think how much you use that in a game, it's gonna take it out of you, definitely.
Yeah, I thought we might see more muscle injuries, obviously, because everyone's had such a long break. I think we could still see that. Obviously, the body's getting used to all the running and stuff again. But yeah, it's definitely a shame for him, at least, because he's done the whole initial quarantine period and obviously now has to go away and get surgery. So yeah, I guess just wish him well.
Definitely.
We should see him again, but like I said, I don't think he'd have had a huge impact, to be honest, on their actual overall chances of winning. But he definitely probably would have been like a 9th man rotation, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I hope we see him. I'm a Rondo fan. I hope we see him. But yeah, wish him well, definitely.
He's always better in the playoffs as well, to be fair.
Exactly. He does take it up a gear. He's just got that mentality, hasn't he? He's been there, he's done it. He knows what's required to be successful, especially in the playoffs. Looking onto another team then, the Brooklyn Nets. You may not recognise them when they take the court. With like 4 Nets players out now: DeAndre Jordan, Spencer Dinwiddie, Wilson Chandler, and now Taurean Prince tested positive for coronavirus. So he'll sit out for a bit. And obviously no Kyrie, no KD. But they have gone forward and signed Jamal Crawford and Michael Beasley. Any thoughts on those 2 signings?
I think they're good because the youth of their roster and the names on their roster was just getting absolutely ridiculous. And we'll go on to do our previews later, but I think they're going to struggle in the bubble as a team. So adding some experience is good. In terms of the actual specific players, I absolutely love Jamal Crawford. One of the funnest players to watch in probably since we've started watching, really, because obviously all those 6 Man of the Year awards.
Yeah.
Obviously, hell of a 3-point shooter. He was like a key member of that cool, like, fun Lob City squad, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So I think he'll be a really good addition. I think he'll probably play a lot of minutes actually for that team. I think Beasley will play, but he's a character where it's like so on and off, isn't it? To A, what Beasley you're going to get, and B, his like fitness and attitude levels. So he could go and just make up the numbers on like a 10th man, even on that team, and let them use their young players. But I think Crawford will actually play and contribute and maybe obviously get playoff minutes. See what we think about that later.
Yeah, I think Crawford's going to go. He's going to have one game where he goes absolutely crazy, and you wouldn't believe he's 40 years old, definitely. And there's one caveat behind signing Michael Beasley, however. He still has to serve I think it's 5-game ban for the misuse of drugs protocol from when he was last in the NBA. So although Brooklyn have signed him, they can't actually use him for the first couple of games.
God, there's only 8 games in the regular season at least, but you'll be there more if they get for a playoff run.
Yes, you'd have thought so. I just think it's a good chance for him to show off that he's still, an NBA caliber player, and hopefully he'll get picked up more permanently next season. I don't think he's too worried. And obviously Brooklyn just need to plug some huge holes they've got in their squad, so they'll take anyone at the moment.
Yeah, I also think if you look at them as a project team, obviously next year, I think if they're not trying to challenge for a title, I think then what are you doing with the amount of money you've spent on KD and Kyrie? So every playoff championship roster sort of needs vets, needs players that can make a difference. So both those two players might even want to stick around on this actual squad really long term if they can fit the system and interact well with the young players. I think they could. Why not try and get a roster spot with DeAndre Jordan, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant next season? They might fancy themselves as a contender.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. And then the final quick bit of news I've got is our favourite team, the Houston Rockets. James Harden and Russell Westbrook don't travel with the whole team to Orlando. They're still not there yet. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I did see that. I feel like it could affect them training-wise, obviously, because, like we said, we've seen lots of videos of teams like the Magic and Mavs and stuff all training already. And obviously, if Houston are at that point of starting to train and get sets together and work on some team chemistry and fitness, obviously those players are going to miss out on that. So, yeah, I think it could lead again, like we said a few weeks ago, with players missing it because of coronavirus. I think similar to this, really, it could lead to them having a slower start, but in this scenario, a slow start could mean 1 or 2 games. It's still over 17 days till the first game, 18 days till Houston play.
Yeah.
So it could mean to a slow start in 1 or 2 games, but similar really with the Lakers, it's not going to affect their overall performance. But yeah, slightly strange. It depends when they're going to join. I haven't heard actually when they're going to join. Have you heard any more on that? Or?
No, I haven't seen any potential joining times, which I'm really torn on this. Like, I feel, they are the superstars on that team, but equally, it's your team. They've gone there. You're the leaders. You should be there to bolster the squad, to show, lead by example kind of thing. If you're saying, nah, I'll be all right, I'll turn up in a couple of weeks and join in, everything will be okay. I don't think that's a good attitude. Or is it? Here's another conspiracy theory for you. They both actually contracted and tested positive for the coronavirus, but because of their superstar status, it's not been released because they want the season to go ahead. So they've just said, no, they've decided to go a bit later, when actually they're quarantining at the moment.
That could be it. It could also be that they themselves they know they've passed, they know they've tested positive, but they're hoping obviously that it goes away soon enough so they can retest when they get there in like 4 or 5 days instead of having to wait the full 2 weeks. That could be another potential reason, we don't know, but yeah, slightly strange, especially when that's 2 stars. Like I said, we're both not pro Houston, so not sure how much we I do think they've got a good chance actually of being one of the only teams that can upset in the West, which we'll talk about in our later pod when we do our West preview on Thursday.
Yes.
But yeah, I do think it could be much to do about nothing. You never know, really. But watch this space, and maybe we'll find more out in time for our Thursday pod.
Yeah, and with that, into this week's big event, our Eastern predictions.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're going to run through a bit of our prediction for East today, like I said, and West on Thursday. The idea is we start at first seed and we're going to go through where we think everyone's going to finish. On the West one, we're going to leave it. We're going to leave it to the top 9 if we think there's going to be a play-in game, depending on our own personal opinions. We're not going to go into exact finishes for everyone, but we will do a little run through of each team if we have time.
Yeah.
But like today, it's the East, so there's only 9 teams anyway, so it's easier. Without spoiling too much, I think it's a bit more set than the West, so that's why we decided to start here, I think, Ben, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a lot easier to kind of predict who's going to sort of end up where, and because it is so spread out, whereas the West, as we all know, 1 or 2 games between 5 or 6 teams. It's tougher to figure out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the East is a little bit weaker nearer the bottom as well, so it's a little bit easier to talk about. So, with that being said, why don't we start with you, mate? Go for start your 1 seed, and we'll go back and forth 1 and 1. And obviously, if we agree on certain ones, we'll spend time talk about it together. And then if we disagree, we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I've got the Bucks sticking at 1. Over the 8 games, picking up an additional 6 wins, 2 losses. And I think those losses will just come because they'll rest players or a bit rusty, or they don't want to put all their cards on the table. So I think the Bucks stay in the number 1 spot with 59 and 14. What about you?
Nice. So me and Ben had a little chat off air, and Ben's done a bit more. He's gone through every single game and given wins and losses, which is quite cool.
I've taken the nerdy approach.
Yeah, whereas I've done kind of similarly, but not as direct. I've gone more opinion based. So yeah, I've gone for the Bucks at 1 as well, just because how many games they're ahead. So they're already locked in at the 1 seed, and I just think really they're going to use this time to ramp the players' fitness up and finalise rotations for the playoffs. I also don't think they care who finishes 8th, so they have no grounds to how they're going to impact any of their games where they're going to finish. So I think they're just going to carry on as they are. And I'd find it harder to predict if it's going to be 6-2, for example, just because I do think they could use their earlier games, like I said, to ramp that fitness up and limit the muscle injury potential. Just because it really doesn't matter. They could go 4-4 and they're still the 1 seed. So I think they're going to be a bit more clever about it. So, but I agree. I think they're going to go for the 1 seed as well. And they obviously want the best record in the whole NBA as well. Maybe that could be a factor for them.
Yeah, I think so, especially when we find out more about what that will actually get them going through the playoffs.
I find that absolutely shocking that we don't have any sort of home court on, or at least a statement saying there is no difference now. There's just no home court advantage. Yeah. Absolutely shocking that the only thing we know is obviously 1 will play 8, so technically that's easier, obviously. But in terms of everything else, I'm crazy that we don't know that yet. But yeah, it's important for the Bucks for sure to find that out.
Definitely. So who have you got in at 2?
For the second spot, I've gone with the reigning champions, the Toronto Raptors. I've got them finishing in second. They're 3 wins ahead in the standings currently. They've got a few really winnable games in their remaining 8. They've got the Grizzlies, Magic, and Nuggets. Obviously, spoiler alert from the other pod. I put before that I think the Nuggets are really going to struggle. So I've classed them as an easier game for the Raptors. And I think they only need 3 wins to solidify the 2nd seed in general. So I've already got them. I'm only giving them 3 wins there. So I think they're going to nick in and just finish second and stay where they are.
Yeah, I've got 5 wins, 3 losses. Looking at their schedule,
so that puts them in second as well for you.
Keeps them in second. So 5 additional wins. They finish 51 and 21, and stay just above the Boston Celtics.
Nice. Hell of a season for them as well if they get that record, to be fair. I know obviously it all looks a bit weird because it's not going to be the same number of games as normal years, but yeah, I think that's cool. I think so. You've got the Celtics, so have I, finishing in third.
Yes.
Why do you think they're going to? Why do you think they're going to be in third? What stops them dropping or climbing, in your opinion?
I think it's literally the current gap that they've got. So again, I've got the Raptors dropping 3 games, but Boston only dropping 2. But I think they've got just enough gap, the Raptors do, ahead of Boston for Boston not to catch them and climb above them.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of the losses I've given the Raptors, I've got them losing to Philly and Denver the last 2 games, because I think they'll be resting key players because they've not done very well with their injuries this season. Whereas Boston, I think, got slightly deeper rotation to be able to push through a little bit more, which is why I've given them 6 wins, and so 1 more win than Raptors, but not enough to close the gap.
Okay, cool. Well, there's been a bit of breaking news. So after this, I don't know if Ben will be able to see it actually. So I'll break the news to him after we do this. And B, I agree. I think the Celtics they're 2 wins ahead of the Heat currently, and there's, like I said, they're 3 wins behind the Raptors. So I just think it's going to be a little bit too much for them to catch the Raptors, a little bit too much for them maybe to fall into the 4 seed. And they've got some really good games. They've got Blazers, Nets, Magic, Grizzlies, and Wizards. Which Nets, we've just said, depleted roster. Wizards, absolutely awful. Grizzlies, a good team, but obviously on the younger side. So they've at least fancied their chances. And the Blazers, great roster on paper, but how much they've struggled this season, their inconsistencies, you don't know which team's going to turn up. So I think they've got a real good chance. Yeah, real good chance winning 4, 5, 6 games out of their 8. But I still think with the gap, that'll probably sit them nicely in 3rd. So they'll just be worrying about who's going to finish in 6th.
Yes.
But who have you got at 4 then after the Celtics?
Before we do that, I've just seen the breaking news. So let's slip it in there and notch one up to my conspiracy theory being correct.
Yeah,
Russell Westbrook says he tested positive for coronavirus. You heard it here first, folks.
You did. You broke that news in Ben's conspiracy corner.
Predictions.
We're going to start a new segment, Ben's conspiracy corner. Here we go. Yeah, it's not really a shock in terms of him missing games. It makes much more sense, doesn't it, and why he's not turned up yet. Very strange that it's only come out now, because you would think that this has obviously been known for a few days because he didn't turn up to Orlando, so it's slightly strange. Shams has obviously reported that he's tested positive, so has everyone else. But just mentioning that he's in quarantine already, so that's begun now. So that's going to be 2 weeks, I believe. But like I said, we don't know the date that he would have actually tested positive yet. So
no, like I said, I think it's just because he is such a big name in the NBA. They probably want to keep it, and he probably want to keep it under wraps as long as possible. But eventually, he's got to come out and front up and say, "Look, I've got it. I've got quarantine, and see you later in Orlando."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's going to miss a lot of training with that. But if we're brutally honest, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference again. I've read a lot of reports, obviously, in terms of the virus in general, just quickly. And with the infection rate going down so much outside of America, obviously where things are a lot more stable, the bubble environment idea is it will be more stable. So the actual more players that get it before it starts, as bad as it sounds, we don't want anyone to get it, but it is actually make it a much less chance that people will get it in the bubble if people start testing positive before they get there.
Yeah.
Because if he has got it, so his chance of infection, but obviously not sure, but it's like 99%.
So
people don't get it again, so he's just like, well, you've got it now, so that's one player of your team you're not going to miss if you get to a game 7, you know. So
yeah,
but yeah, wish him the best of luck anyway in terms of just general health, because some people do obviously react differently, so that's the key part, really.
And as much as we, gripe about Houston, he is entertaining, so
he's probably my favourite player to watch on that team. To be honest, I like PJ Tucker as well, but yeah, I think he's at least entertaining. Not my necessarily favourite style, but he's a game changer for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, where were we? Number 4.
Yeah, you were about to tell us who you were going to finish in 4th behind the Celtics.
The Miami Heat in 4 behind the Celtics. Another
chalk at the moment.
6 wins, I think. It's leaving them at 47-26, so only 2 games back still from the Boston Celtics. But I've probably been quite nice and got them picking up a few nice wins that they probably won't get. I think I've got them maybe sneaking one against the Bucks. That's like a best case scenario with the Bucks are resting players and Miami are trying to go all out and catch the Celtics. But they've also got, after the first sort of half, like first 4 games, they've got quite a nice schedule after that, with Phoenix, Indiana twice, and OKC.
Yeah, I know it's the same thing. I wrote down on my list, Pacers twice is going to be key. And obviously the Suns, I'm just giving them a win, to be honest, quite easy. So, yeah, I've got them finishing 4th as well. I think, like I said, they'll have to obviously outdo the Celtics by 2 wins in this process. I just can't see the Celtics finishing below 5. So the Heat would probably have to go 7 or 8 from 8, really, to finish 3rd. Maybe 7 at the worst case to go into 3rd. And I just don't think the Celtics are going to drop enough games. And I think the Heat, will probably drop 2 games at least, like 6-2, 7-1, massive push. But I just think they're going to slot in nicely and just be in that fourth place.
Yeah.
So if they're fourth, who have you got in this case playing them in round 1 of the playoffs with finishing 5th?
My first change from the original finishing standings, the Philadelphia 76ers sneak up one into 5th. They get 6 wins, 2 losses on this little streak, giving them a record of 45-28. So, yeah, they're going to do enough to overtake Indiana, I think, without a shadow of a doubt. Looking at their schedule as well, I think they've got a couple of real nice games in there. A couple of difficult ones, but enough to put them over the edge against Indiana, definitely.
Nice. Well, unfortunately, our lists are exactly the same still currently, so no debates to talk about. But I've gone for the 76ers jumping up as well and finishing in 5th spot. We mentioned on our episode where we talked about the schedules, we mentioned that they've got the easiest schedule in the NBA left now. They've got the easiest schedule. Oh, no, sorry. Second in the NBA, easiest in the East. So I think they're going to win a lot of games. They've got the Pacers, Wizards, Spurs, Magic, Blazers, and Suns. They're all wins for me at this point. The Pacers game will be key, really. If the Pacers do want to hold on to 5th and avoid, obviously, playing that more difficult matchup in the first round, maybe they'll want to beat the 76ers, but I just can't see it. I think the 76ers will be too strong. I think they'll win, like you said. I've got them winning at least 6 games, and that'll be enough for me, definitely, to put them in 5th. But I think they're going to be probably just slightly behind the Heat. Maybe 1 game is what I've got them finishing behind the Heat on.
I've got their losses coming from Portland and from Houston at the end, because I think Portland are going to be pushing the whole time and really be playing hard. I think although Toronto is the penultimate game, they're going to be resting because they'll be almost pretty much locked up in that 2 seed. And then Houston will be pushing all the way through, like I said, trying to secure their spot. So that's what I think, which leads us on to number 6.
Number 6 there, I've got the Pacers. They're 9 wins ahead currently in the standings. So even though we mentioned previously about Victor Oladipo missing out, I just think no matter what they do, then obviously they can't drop below to 7. And I don't think they'll win enough games to finish any higher than 6th. I've got them winning no more than 4 games at a push. So I think they're locked into the 6 at a minimum, but I can't see them winning much more than 4. So I think they're going to finish bang on in that 6th spot.
Yeah, you're more generous than me there. I gave them 2 wins.
Yeah, so I put no more than 4, but I couldn't really see much higher than 3 or 4. But if they won 2, if I'm honest, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I just gave them the wins over Washington and Phoenix. Those are the only ones I'd be confident in giving them.
But I wouldn't be shocked if the Suns, do you know what I mean, come out and shot the lights out and beat them. You know, that's unfortunately that's the way the Pacers are. I think it's the offensive end they're going to struggle on. So
yeah, agreed there. Can we make this a perfect list here?
Well, who have you got finishing in 7?
7th, I've got the Orlando Magic creeping up and overtaking those Brooklyn Nets.
Same as me. Our list is chalk, and we didn't discuss this even before.
No.
Which is quite funny.
So
have you got them finishing 7?
I've got Orlando winning 3 of their last 8, which gives them 33 and 40, whereas I've got Brooklyn winning 1 game, giving them 31 and 41. I just think Orlando seem more consistent in their roster. They seem focused. I've seen so many videos of them training, getting together. This is practically their home court advantage the whole time. You know, they've said that they can like go up top floor of their hotel and see their mansions from Disneyland. Like, you're not getting much closer than that, really. I almost don't understand why they're quiet in the bubble. They could be going home. But so yeah, I've got Orlando being the more together, more coherent team and doing enough to overtake the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, same as you. Like I said, they got the Nets twice, I think. Is that right, in their schedule?
Yes.
And they're just going to be crucial to me. Those games are just going to be the ones that basically tip them into that seventh seed for sure. I think also we said that earlier the Nets are going to struggle with their young roster. And I just think they're basically going to lose those two games to the Magic at a bare minimum, which will just give the Magic enough to go into that seventh spot. And I think the Magic will be really focused because they're a team that obviously have struggled for years, always quite low in the draft, and playoff runs are going to be few and far between. And this team might get separated at some point with Vujicic and Jordan. Gordon. DeAndre Jordan just signed to the Magic in my brain. So I think this is key for them. Whereas I think the Nets, they're a long-term project, aren't they? They've got those two stars to come back. Their aim is to win it in the next 2-3 seasons at least. So I don't think they'll be as focused. And like I said, they're a bit of a match roster. So I've got them finishing 8th instead of 7th.
I think Brooklyn are almost using this as a summer league. Like, let's bring on some of the young players. Let's try out some of the older ones. Let's see who's going to be a fit for when we have a healthy team next season.
I agree. Yeah, I think they're trying to fill out their roster and work out what they need to strengthen in the summer, what they need to add, obviously, to help their stars, and maybe even see what sort of players fit their actual system or will play well with those stars as well. Obviously, they've got a few young players and they've got a few older players and they've got a few younger players that want to get paid soon. So obviously, it's more like forming a final valuation, I think, on their roster.
Yeah.
But I have them in 8th. I don't have them, even though obviously I have them struggling a lot. I can't see them winning any more than 2 games at an absolute max. And I think whoever they get, they're going to get swept in the playoffs. Well, in our scenario, they're getting the Bucks, so they're going to get swept. But I don't have them falling far enough to finish 9th. I have the Wizards staying in 9th because I think they're going to go 0-8. Ben predicted they're going to go 0-8. They might go
Doubling down. Come on, conspiracy corner.
Prediction corner / conspiracy corner, to be honest. But yeah, I think they're going to finish in 9th. I think we mentioned before, we don't want to go into it too much, that they probably shouldn't be there. I think that they're going to win one at a push. Ben obviously says they're going to win none, so they're going to finish in that 9th spot. And that we both think, I think, Ben, that they're going to finish too far behind the Nets as well to even force a playing game. So
I don't even think they're going to be within an arm's length of them, let alone challenging them at all for a playoff game. I think it's one of only, we've said it multiple times, only invited because other teams from the West were invited. The Wizards just never stood a chance.
No, especially with obviously the players that they're now missing, and it just hampered them even more. But it's a bit of a shame, really, with the new format. We're not going to see a playing game in the East, I'd say. A slight missed opportunity, maybe, for the league to test that out as much as they can. Obviously, if the East finishes as we say it's going to finish, then there's only going to be one playing game, and that's obviously if the same thing in the West doesn't happen. The gap's not too big. We'll have to find out on Thursday what we think about that. But I do think it's a shame, really, that we're not going to see a game. But I also wouldn't want the Wizards just to get a game because they're 9th. I agree that there needs to be some sort of permutation. But I just think they're just going to lose 7 or 8 games and not get in there.
I think the playing game would be entertaining. I just don't think it'll be entertaining if it's Wizards versus Brooklyn.
Especially this Brooklyn team.
Yeah, who wants to see a potential 3-game series on that when actually we could just get into the meat and veg of the full-blown playoffs?
Cool. Well, there's our final list. We're going to do a proper playoff prediction pod in the future, but also we've got the same list. So just looking at it briefly now, is there any fan bases that you might think are really happy or really unhappy with where we put them, just in terms of who they're going to play and how their season's gone? I think the 76ers will be slightly happier than maybe they would be, but the Celtics would definitely be happier in our list because they're avoiding the 76ers.
And they get Indiana, which is potentially one of the easier teams in this 8 on the East.
Yeah, I think all 3 of the top seeds in our list would be very, very happy because, like I said, Bucks in our list would play Nets, Raptors would play Magic, who are not going to be easiest, but
I think that's going to be a tough matchup. They're going to make it difficult just because they want to. Because, like I said, they're there as a full squad. They want to fight. They want bring a bit of pride back to Orlando and the Magic. And I think they're going to make life difficult in this scenario for the Raptors.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Celtics will be a lot happier than, to be honest, playing the 76ers. So they'll be delighted with that. They'll want to hold on to that third spot.
The only advantage Indiana might have there is their size. Boston struggle with the bigs. So, Miles Turner cleaning the glass, people like that, they are going to really struggle, I think. Potentially.
That might be the way they focus on trying to win the series, really, with their size, with Sabonis and Turner, I think.
If anything, actually, Indiana could be quite happy with this matchup rather than like Philly or Miami.
Yeah, I was going to say, would the Pacers prefer to play the Heat or Raptors? You're not really sure. They might prefer to play the Raptors because they've got some bigs, but an older set of bigs, isn't it? They don't like to defend outside. People like Gasol and Ibaka and stuff. But yeah, I think one thing, if you look at that list that we've come up with, that 4-5 seed matchup is just going to be nuts. I think it's going to be nuts. To be honest, it'll probably be mental whoever plays there. But I do think if it was Heat Pacers, for example, it's a lot less entertaining. If we're going to miss out on a Celtic 76ers first round, I think to see a Heat 76ers first round is more than going to make up for it.
I'd prefer that. I can't wait to see Jimmy Butler play the 76ers.
Yeah, I agree.
There's going to be
sixes
texts flying everywhere.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to be fuming. There'll be a lot of arguments in the bubble.
Here we go. Here's another prediction, everybody. Joel Embiid will throw a ball at Jimmy Butler's head.
If he does that, I predict Jimmy Butler will get thrown out because he'll punch him in the head. If he but I think that's some pretty cool matchups. But that's would be definitely the first round at least. That would definitely be the pick of the East, wouldn't it? I don't think any other game will go anywhere near as long as that one. I can't see that being less than a 7-game series. Can you?
No, I think that's going 7. The Bucks are going to sweep Brooklyn. The Raps, I reckon, maybe 4-1.
Don't ruin your playoff predictors.
Sorry.
But no, I do agree.
Excited.
There's going to be some sweeps for sure. Probably in both conferences potentially, but definitely in this East, if you look at the list, there's a big chance of some sweeps. But Heat 76ers, 7-game series of that, we'd have to try and do some sort of commentary on our Twitter page for that, mate, or get together and do a watch along pod or something. That would just be too good to miss out on.
That's a great idea.
All right, cool. Anything we want to finish on? Obviously, a bit of a shorter pod this one because we decided we were going to do both together, weren't we? But East and West, but we thought we wouldn't be able to get any news in, and it'd probably drag on for an hour and a half. So we thought we'd do two shorter pods, really.
Yeah, no, I think we've covered it all. We've had some breaking news. We've had some predictions. It's been an exciting one.
Yeah, I think the West one's going to be a lot more chop and change compared to the East. But it's just the nature of the conferences, really, isn't it? Everyone knows how tight the West has been all year, this year especially, and even in the last 4 or 5 years, it's been nuts. So look forward to previewing that one with you.
Yeah, if you want to hear us have a discussion about teams we don't agree on, that'll be the one to tune in.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And also, if any Houston fans want to listen to more compliments about their team, well, I don't want to ruin anything, but I think they might do all right. But we'll have to find out what I think on Thursday. Ooh. But yeah, just a reminder as well from me and Ben, please try and enter that competition on Twitter because, like I said, we want to give something free away to the fans. It's quite cool that at Mugs NFL guys have agreed to do it, so we don't want people missing out that listen. So go to our Twitter page at _Hardwood Hoops. Go to our last tweet from the last episode, and all the details are on there. Because I think it would be a shame for people to miss out, mate, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, everybody loves free stuff.
Definitely, and please try and share the pod as well. We don't normally ask that, but just want to take this opportunity to mention everyone to tell a friend or retweet it or go on our Facebook page, which is just Hardwood Hoops Podcast as well, and just share that. And any feedback would be much appreciated from both of us.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, all right, mate. I'll speak to you on Thursday and catch you listeners later as well.
Yes. Speak to you soon, mate. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye.